In this video, I'm gonna try and survive 100 days more on Mars in Minecraft. I just wanna get a bit organized, and I was really looking forward to build this item collector, but for that I needed some materials, and I also wanted an ender pearl, and for that I had to fight an enderman, which happened at night. It was a bit scary, because it was one of my first fights, but I ended up in victory, and by the end of the day I was able to craft the item collector. But one more thing that happened that day was actually my oxygen system broke, so I'll have to investigate that later. But by the end of the day I was able to actually test the item collector, and it's working. The next day I was actually looking for a solution on how to airtight my base, because we eventually want to seal our base and live there forever. But I just ended up to dig some holes because I want to extend my base underneath, and by the end of the day the oxygen system broke again. So I was really looking forward to fix this as soon as possible, because it started to get really dangerous. Day 28 started with me farming a bit and extending my farm a bit, and I was looking forward to complete more quests. In this quest we actually need to use a stone barrel with lava and using dusts like redstone or glowstone to make blocks like netherrack, skystone and so on. I ended up hammering some more cobblestone to get gravel and so on, and by the end of the day I just wanted to expand my farm a little bit more, but I ended up fighting another dirt block for some reason. But I actually got some pretty decent loot out of that, so I'm pretty happy. And finally on day 29 I finally activated our excavator and I could finally mine things way faster, thanks to you guys. I was also looking to get some animals around here, because I also got a quest for that too. But I need a lot more dirt for that. So my plan was to actually plant more trees and get the leaves out of that, because you make dirt very easily with leaves. But guess what, by the end of the day the oxygen system broke again. And finally I was able to finish the quest for skystone. With our excavator working, it was really easy now to make hammer blocks, which meant I could also use my auto sieving machine to get more dusts. In the meantime I also wanted to replace the floors, and I actually reorganized some of the items around. And my dirt farm started actually working pretty well and ended up making dirt pretty fast. Another day passed by and I was actually still working on making netherrack, and I could look forward to make diamond ingots, which sounds really cool, but not sure how good they are. So I started burning some netherrack to make that into bricks, and you actually have to make some sort of cauldron out of nether bricks, and then you actually need to throw gold ingots, not gold nuggets, to get diamond ingots. But I actually failed, so I didn't end up having diamond ingots that day. But the next day I actually managed to get it. Now I have diamond ingots, which meant I could finally build myself a really cool looking sword. So I started melting the diamond ingots, poured that into a cask, and I got myself a really cool looking sword. Isn't that cool? I think it is. On to the next day, starting the morning up with some more gravel making. And I found out that if you compress multiple gravel blocks into one block, you get compressed gravel, and you can pretty much sieve more gravel with one block, if that makes sense. And I was still working on my dirt farm, and it started working pretty well, because I started planting more and more sapling, and by the end of the day I just kept sieving some more gravel. I decided to spend a full day working on making dirt, so that means planting trees, cutting leaves, making dirt and so on, because I really wanted some animals around and I wanted to see if that will work. As I was starting to get so much dirt, I managed to finally get and set up a small pen for all animals, place a little bit of water in there, and I placed the first pig bait. And little did you know that we already got a pig. Cute little pig. But you know how they say, good things don't last long, so he unfortunately suffocated to that because my oxygen system broke again. And yeah, I know, this is the saddest moment of this series probably. But oh well. Try again later. So after such a big loss, it was time to actually try and repair our oxygen system, because we couldn't lose another one like that. So I started messing around with our oxygen system. It turns out it's not set up right as I did it, because it's kinda choking with too much oxygen distributing in one side, too little on the other side, and it turns out you actually don't even need a tree to make oxygen, you just need leaves. But as you will see, we will get that fixed later on, but for now I think this will do it. So this is what I spent on a full day. So the next day it was time to try again and get some animals. I put a cute little gate down there, I paved all the way to the entrance and tried my luck again with the bait, and little did you know we got another pig. This time he's not choking, so that's good, but to protect him a little bit more I made a little fence around. I know it's not looking the greatest, but you get a point. And I tried again, and now we got 2 pigs, which is amazing. And it doesn't stop there, because I managed to get them make a little baby, and yeah, we now have 3 pigs, which is awesome. The next day my plan was to actually get the animals closer to the oxygen source so they don't suffocate again. And warning, this is building gore for Minecraft, but I promise you I will make them look better. But I also tried to get like cows and chickens, but you can't have them all into the same place, so we'll leave that for later. So the next day I wanted to get some more quests done, so I started crafting some weird stuff like a book for what we need to go to Venus and other planets. I made a parachute, which I'm not sure how to use it, and the coolest thing ever, I made the grappling hook, which actually works. That's great. The next day started horribly. All my pigs have suffocated again. So I said to myself I had enough of this and it was time to actually repair the oxygen system once and for all. First thing I did, I just cut down the whole tree, or I mean most of the tree, and I started digging underneath the base to make a really big space because my plan was to make a room full of leaves that will make oxygen. I really needed this to be clean, so I planned it all and it was time to get working. Everything needed to be tight, everything needed to go like a whole system. So this was the start of the biggest project I worked so far, and I also wanted to keep the solar panels outside of the base in case at some point we build a roof on our base. So yeah, this was a long-term planning, and for the first day I think we did really good. Setting up the solar panels was pretty hard because I didn't have enough cable, so I needed to find a way to don't get them too far away from the base, but at least get them outside of the base. And I also wanted the cable to go underneath the base so it doesn't interfere with walking through the base, but I also wanted to have easily accessible cables, so I dug a big hole underneath the base basically and managed to squeeze the cables underneath. So by the next day I was looking to make some more cables because no matter the setup I didn't have enough, so making some cables was not that hard actually. I just needed some wool and some aluminium, which I already had. It was just a matter of melting it into some ingots. So by the end of the day I had more cable to work with and I started laying down the first few meters of cable. Starting off the next day by making some more string because I didn't have enough cable, even though I just made a little bit. So we made more string by infecting some leaves and then, crooking them up. We get some string and then we make wool out of that, and then we get cables. After laying down some more cable, it was really important to disassemble the whole system by parts because I couldn't run out of oxygen for a long period of time, so I needed to be careful to still have some more power over the days I'm still working on this. The next day I actually started building the oxygen chamber. You actually need a 5x5 area covered with leaves to get the maximum oxygen that one oxygen collector can get, and with enough leaves I had plenty of leaves to just build it, and I was slowly reconnecting the whole system. I also managed to find a really good layout for the solar panels outside of my base and started out laying some pipes for the oxygen to actually travel, so to still produce some of the oxygen before I finish up the whole build. Next day it was just a matter of trying out different layouts for the cables and for the oxygen pipes, because you pretty much want the oxygen collector to have direct access to the power so it doesn't interfere with something else, and of course you want the oxygen distributor to get the oxygen from direct power. So the whole day I was just playing around finding the best layout for me, and slowly I was completing the leaves chamber so I can get enough oxygen, but I also wanted direct access of oxygen for the compressor in case I want to go on a journey or on an adventure and I need to fill up my portable oxygen containers. So for the next day, connecting the solar panels to the main power cable and just closing out the base, and I decided I have to organize my chest. So I made a bunch of chests and try to organize all the items into the chest because it was really such a big mess. So now that we have a really good oxygen system set up, I could actually look forward to seal the base so we don't really have to rely on staying in a bubble. But for that I really needed some pretty complicated machines like a compressor and some other things that I really don't know, but we will get there eventually. But for the most part I had to get back to making more gravel and more sand and more dust and get a lot of materials. So that's what I spent the day on. Yeah, the next day I kept hammering sand down and sieving, and I made a new sieve, and I built this circuit fabricator, but unfortunately I didn't have silicone to use it with a dam. Yeah, I know it wasn't a really productive day, so I ended up leaving it for another day. Starting off the next day, I was figuring out that the best way to get silicone is to Certus quartz, and you get Certus quartz by sieving crushed skystone, but you can't simply just crash down skystone with a stone hammer. You actually need a diamond hammer, so I built that and I crushed some skystone skystone and then I sieve some skystone to get the first quartz, and I keep going on and on to the same thing. Maybe there's a better approach to this, but at the time that's what I use it. So my luck wasn't the best, but I keep doing it, so hopefully we will get there. Alright, the next day I found something even more interesting. I told you I'm not good with mods, so I didn't know you can put a hopper underneath the automated sieving, and oh god, this made my life 10 times easier. So as of now, I just can place a bunch of dust into the hopper and, you know, come back after an hour and everything gets sieved into the chest, because the item collector catches everything that's in the air. So my next project was to actually improve the automated sieving, make it more powerful by putting a lot more water mills and connecting a bunch of sieves, you know. So for the next day, I started to make some room for the new upcoming and many more sieves. But to make sieves is easy, and all we have left to do is to make some string meshes and then reinforce them with flint and iron and so on. But luckily I had enough material to do it, so by the end of the day the auto sieving was working really great, and that means we will have to spend less time doing this ourselves, which is great. So now that our oxygen system is working right, it was time to actually make the animal farm I'm talking about, or at least, you know, get my pigs working and not suffocating to death. I also collected a bunch of leaves that I have left from the previous tree, fenced up the whole pen, and by the end of the day I had my little pig friend, which this time probably won't suffocate, I hope. Starting off the next day by beating a zombie and getting the, you know, music disc, and my plan for that day was to make a bunch of sand and dust to get into the auto sitter so I can get a bunch of resources. But in the meantime I was trying to get as many pigs I can get from pretty much pig bait, but it turns out I still had a weak spot into the animal pen, so I had to fix that. And something funny I found out is that you can pretty much pick up any animal and block right into the hands. I know it looks weird, but it works. By the end of the day I had a bunch of resources and some pretty healthy pigs again. I also wanted to complete some more quests, so my next quest was to make a coal grinder, which was pretty easy actually, and the next one would be a coal generator, which was a little bit more complicated, but not really hard. I was only lacking a few ores, so I might as well just make some more gravel this time and just put it into auto sitter and let it be. So finally, after I get some cables, I managed to get the coal generator. It wasn't really useful for now, but at least I completed the quest, so that was it for now. Next day I started by breeding out the pigs, because I wanted a big farm, and now that I have a bunch of skystone dust I could really easily make skystone. But I also wanted to build something cool, which are elevators, because now my base has a basement, but for that I needed 2 ender pearls and I needed to fight more endermen, and there started my hunt for endermen. There were some pretty rough fights all around, but the most hardcore one was by mistake looking at 2 endermen at the same time, and oh boy, it was hard. But finally I managed to get myself 2 ender pearls and a looting bag, which had some weird stuff in it that I don't really care about right now. Yeah, pigs again. For the elevators I needed a bunch of wool, so for that I needed to invest a lot more leaves, but eventually I got them and I was searching for the right spot to install them, and here's how they're working. I mean, if that's not cool, I don't know what it is. Spending some more time working and fixing up some holes into the basement and making the access ways a little bit larger, and the final plan for that day was to actually start and build a tree farm bigger and better so I can get loads of dirt. My tree farm started growing, so I had to set up a bunch of wood barrels, make a bunch of dirt really quick, and the tree farm just started working really well. I also wanted to fix a bit of basement, and I also placed some glass over the lava so I don't accidentally fall in there. And because I was tired of crushing down with the hands the cobblestone to turn it into gravel, I decided it's time to build a crusher, which basically does the basic thing of making cobblestone into gravel. It was not really hard to make it, but since I have an unlimited cobblestone generator, my idea was to connect the cobblestone generator to the crusher and the crusher to the auto sifter. So basically it will make unlimited gravel for the auto sifter so I can get unlimited resources like iron and aluminium and all that stuff. It was pretty fun to set up a cable way, but at the end of the day I had it working. Alright, so yesterday I just set up the crusher, but hear me out. You can make the crusher go twice as fast by making this upgrade. But for this upgrade we need a bunch of things. We firstly need a resonator to make the plate, and then we need like some sort of ender pearl shard, which you obviously get from an ender pearl. So while waiting on the night to get an ender pearl, I just made a farm. Be more precise, a wheat farm. And the moment has come, I could finally get an enderman to fight, and first try I just get an ender pearl. Then with this little tool I could get 8 ender shards, which then I eventually use them to create a resonator. And with the resonator you can make the upgrade, but you actually need some sort of new power, which I'm gonna set up tomorrow. Alright, so the next day I was ready to set up some grid power, because grid power is needed for these things to work. Basically there's a manual power thing that generates grid power, but because it's manual it's actually not that great, because for the crusher to work I need constant power. So I was looking to build some more solar panels that actually generate grid power, and it was pretty easy. With that setup we can get the crusher working twice as fast.